Okay, hallo alle. Willkommen zurück. So I am here to just kind of rehash something that I went over in class today and in past classes. Und zwar die Modalverben, Modal Verbs. And I'm just going to apologize right off the bat for the ostensible utter lack of production values in this video and similar videos on my channel that you might use to review. So, what are modal verbs? First, I always think of modal verbs in terms of like which verbs they actually are. But on a broader level, we say a modal verb is a verb that expresses a mode of action. So basically, it's like putting a filter on an action, like on a different verb, or like giving it a little asterisk and a disclaimer. And that other action is expressed then as an infinitive, meaning it's not conjugated, and it's the idea of the action. It's happening independent of a subject. So like if I have an infinitive, it is indicative of the idea of the verb, if that makes sense, the idea of the action. And I am the one, or the subject rather, is the one embodying the limitation, the modification that the modal verb puts on the action. So in English, we could think of these as words like can, may, could, should, would, like to, want to. So wie können wir da ein bisschen weitermachen? As an example, I might say, na, was sage ich denn? You can speak some German. So can here would be our modal verb, and speak is our infinitive. That is the action that we're modifying. So versus you speak some German, we're talking about how you speak German, wenn das Sinn macht, wenn das Sinn ergibt. Okay, die deutschen Modalverben mögen und möchten are the first we went over. I put them in like this little asterisk here because these we don't necessarily need an infinitive in our sentence. It is implied a lot of the time, but mögen is to like. If I want to say I like bananas, I could say ich mag Bananen. And if I am ordering a banana at a restaurant, which I suppose might be a thing one does in some places, I could say ich möchte eine Banane. Maybe someone is offering me some fruit for breakfast and I specify that I would like a banana. Müssen, must, dürfen, like may, to be allowed to be permitted to, können, can, wollen, want to, shall, sollen, should. So I'm going to go over the conjugations briefly. So we can begin by recognizing a pattern with the conjugation, die Konjugierung of the modal verbs. So unser Hinweis hier, the ich form and the as s form are going to have the same conjugation, and we're going to use that form, the ich form, as the stem that we're adding our st ending to for the du form. The other forms are going to just be conjugated normally with the modal verb stem and the endings that the respective pronouns usually take. For example, können, ihr könnt. So beginning with the ones that we started with in class, and I noted here, again, the infinitive is often implied in this case. I'd say more often than not with mögen. We have the irregular ich form with the stem vowel change ich mag, and SES mag. So it's going to be exactly the same. We add our ST ending to that irregular form for du. Everything else is going to follow the pattern where we take our usual stem, so the part other than the ending, mög, and add our respective pronoun endings to it. So sie mögen, wir mögen, ihr mögt, sie mögen. I'll come to möchten. If you want to order something, this is a good polite word to use. So this one, like on the surface, looks pretty regular, but I still have these ich and SES and du forms in red to highlight the pattern, because we are still copying over the ich form to the SES slot, and our ST pattern still applies here. So ich möchte, du möchtest, sie möchten, SES möchte, wir möchten, ihr möchtet, sie möchten. We've got können, can. This one is similar to English in the ich form and SES form. Of course, I can, you can, he, she, it can. So ich kann, du kannst, SES kann. Our regular form, sie können, wir können, ihr könnt, and the other sie's. Was haben wir denn noch? So wollen und sollen. So I wrote here, think last will, like last will and testament, which I know is a little bit morbid, but you could think of a will as a document that expresses intent. So wollen often gets confused with werden, the word for the future tense in German, because of this ich will, SES will form. But like at the most literal level, it just means to want something. Aber das ist stärker als auf Englisch. Ich will, du willst, SES will, and our regular form, sie wollen, wir wollen, ihr wollt, and the other two sie forms, again, mirror the sie form here, sie wollen. We've got wollen und sollen. So sollen, should, supposed to. So, was sagen wir denn dann? Was sagen wir dazu? Ich soll, du sollst, SES soll, sie sollen, wir sollen, ihr sollt, other sie forms. So this would be like someone tells me to do my homework. My mother says I should do my homework. That's the sense we'd use it in. Meine Mutter sagt, ich soll meine Hausaufgaben machen. So to close out our conjugations, we have müssen und dürfen. Müssen sounds similar to English. Very straightforward. Must, I must do this. I must help you review by making this video awkwardly. Ich muss, du musst. Here we don't need a third S, so we're just adding a T. SES muss, sie müssen, wir müssen, ihr müsst, other sie's. And then dürfen, which is often confused or conflated with können, can in English. The classic example here is like you ask your, your high school teacher if you can go to the bathroom, and the teacher's like, I don't know, can you? And what they're saying, what they're implying there is that they want to be pedantic, and they want you to ask, may I go to the bathroom? Am I allowed? Is it permitted? So in German, we would use dürfen for those situations. And we have a vowel change here for the irregular ich SES form. So ich darf, du darfst, sie dürfen, sie es darf, wir dürfen, ihr dürft. So that concludes the conjugations we should know for these irregular modal verbs. So jetzt besprechen wir die Wortstellung, word order, and I put a winky face here, not just to observe a German cultural convention, but because I know this is everyone's favorite word order. But we have basically two verbs, two sort of actions in a modal verb sentence. So we have the modal verb itself, like ich muss, for example. Then we have the infinitive that the modal verb is modifying. So I've said in the past that in a regular German sentence, a statement, our conjugated verb comes second as the second element of the sentence. And that is going to apply here to the modal verb only, because only the modal verb is getting conjugated. So the modal verb is in the second position, either right before or right after the subject when performing the action. And if we have a sentence that's just one clause, the infinitive's pushed to the end of the sentence. Otherwise, it's pushed to the end of the clause. So we could look at some examples here. In English, we could say the boy must go to the dentist tomorrow. We have a modal verb, must, and then the action that's modifying the infinitive go, the subject, the one performing the action, the boy, and then we just have a place and time. These are less important with regards to our word order. So if we translate this into German, we have to shift our word order a little bit. Der Junge muss morgen zum Zahnarzt gehen. Oder morgen muss der Junge zum Zahnarzt oder einfach zum Arzt gehen. So what's different here? In this first example, we are still just starting with our subject. So that's our first element. Our second element is our conjugated modal verb, muss, form of müssen. Time usually comes before place. It goes time, manner, place in describing actions in German. So I put morgen before zum Zahnarzt. That is not a hard and fast rule, but it is the most conventional way to structure your sentences, order your sentences in German. So that's why I have it that way. And then gehen, finally, our infinitive. So das ist unser Infinitiv. So here we have the alternative form, morgen muss der Junge zum Zahnarzt oder zum Arzt gehen. So here I'm starting with this morgen, the time, instead of der Junge. However, der Junge does still appear right after our conjugated verb, which is still in the second position. And again, our infinitive is at the end of the sentence here. So we can talk about ja oder nein Fragen. I do want to also briefly address clauses. So you probably have learned about clauses in your high school English class. So a clause basically just has a subject and a verb. In some cases, it could stand alone as a sentence, and in some cases, it can't. So if we expand on our example that we just looked at from the last page, the boy must go to the dentist or to the doctor tomorrow. We could say, the boy must go to the doctor tomorrow. And afterwards, the idea of him going to the doctor and then going back to bed, and then a conjunction and connecting these clauses. So if we're writing this in German, what that means for us, for our purposes, is that we are just going to push the infinitive gehen in the first case to the end of the clause, not the whole sentence. So what that would give us then is an N. Morgen muss der Junge zum Arzt. Gehen. Und danach darf er So in English, we have the he before the may. In German, we're going to put that darf before the because our adverb afterwards is the first element in this clause. Danach darf afterwards may he wieder ins Bett gehen. Danach darf wieder ins Bett gehen. So one caveat to our rule with the conjugative